Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your presence here today. We hope that this is going to be worth your while. In fact, we're going to try very hard for being here. Today, we are going to get into a new era of trying to get sustainability up to the speed of what is required, because you would have noticed that everywhere around us we are lagging, we are not fast enough for the 2030 goal, and we are facing challenges. So how do we overcome this, and what do we do? As Einstein said, we cannot expect the same results. We cannot expect different results when we do the same thing. And we've been doing the same thing for a pretty long time, and we've not been getting the results we want. So, without further ado, our first speaker, Ms. Shireen Williams from South Africa, is our Malaysia Hub lead for the inner development goals. These inner development goals will be explained to you in her and subsequent presentations. The next speaker will be online. She's from Netherlands, and then Maria from Netherlands, and then Patrick is from Geneva, and he will be speaking to you about this new effort to accelerate SDGs and ESG using the inner development goals. I give it up for Shireen Williams. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I first of all just want you all to take your right hand. Can I see your right hand? And I want you to tap yourself on the back. Thank you for being here. Thank you for staying here. And thank you for joining us in our very last session of the summit. Really appreciate your time and for you being here. So I'm going to be a little dramatic in my introduction. So it's the 31st of December 2030. Your house is burning down. Okay? This is dramatic. And you need to get out. And in that process of getting out, you need to get out with your loved ones and you need to get out with your community. What do you do? Because that's where we're at the moment. So today we come together to explore a very important topic, and that is the inner development goals, the acceleration of ESG and our SDGs. I want to share a very powerful realization that's emerged as I've been going through this, as I've been learning through this, is that we have to do this with purpose. But there's a missing piece. There's an absolute missing piece. And that missing piece is you and it's me. And as I go further, I'm going to explain a little bit more to you. I need to get to my slides. Okay. These aren't my slides. Apologies. These are not my slides. My slides start with, it's midnight and your house is burning. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to speak a little bit more, and then when we get the slides back up again, I'll start again. I'll stop at where I am in with the slides. Okay, cool. Just for time. Okay, so the future belongs to those who prepare for it today. And when I say that, great things never come to people who are in comfort zone. And imagine a puzzle. Imagine that we have all the pieces together, but there's one piece missing. And that piece is the human factor. What drives us to really make an impact and a significant difference? And let's pause for a moment and think about how urgent this matter is. Our world is at a turning point. Okay. Our world is at a turning point. And if we don't work together, and if we don't make positive changes together, what are we leaving for our generations before us? And that's something that needs to sink in from your very lowest grassroots level to your grass top level. And how do we cascade down that information to everybody to let them know and understand that the difference that they make is something significant for the future? Are you ready? All of us that are here for the summit today, and I've got to say, I've spent some time with the people in the summit, and I have to say, wow, there's so much of passion in this conference. There's so much of people willing to do so many things. How are you taking that forward, intrinsically motivating people within your organizations, in SMEs, with businesses, and how do we take them on this journey with us? But it has to come and start from inside. So let's talk about the case for change for Malaysia. So it's now or never. Malaysia is aiming to achieve a net zero greenhouse gas emissions by as early as 2050. Now, these are things that you all know. We've been talking about this in the summit throughout the time we've been here. But with institutions and businesses and SMEs just like you, I am completely confident that you can accelerate your progress. So I want to share this. I actually love this. The best way to predict the future is to create it. And that's what we're doing. We're trying to predict the future so we can create the proper future as we go along. So I want to illuminate the path further now that you understand and know the case for change. Imagine a seasoned captain guiding a massive ship through a turbulent sea. The organization is like the ship. It sails through stormy waters of global challenges. Amid these challenges emerges a beacon of light. That beacon of light is the inner development goals. So just as the captain relies on inner navigation tools to get to where he needs to go through, or she, the IDGs empowers leaders and business owners to navigate these complex challenges through personal growth, through organizational alignment, and through mindful cultural evolution. So the captain has empathy for the sea because he nurtures trust with the sea. And the IDGs fosters that empathy and engagement. So where are we at? The pace at which we are actually, the SDGs and ESGs traction is elusive at the moment, right? This pace we speak about relates to the 31st of December 2030, apologies, and our 2050 global climate goals. The key criteria is lack of pace, is now identified to the lack of inner drive. So the crux of what the IDGs is the inner human drive. That is you and me. So we've come through a whole evolution, right? We've come through the evolution of competitive advantages. We went through the industrial age. We went through the information age. And now we are moving to a conscious, responsible age. What is that? What is this conscious, responsible age? Culturalization and integration. So I just want to spend some time with you so you get to understand what this means. It means that we are now valuing our cultural capital, emphasizing the integration of diverse perspectives and experiences. Creativity and innovation as a catalyst. I think everybody's been talking about innovation through the summit, and innovation is no longer a skill. It is a driving force behind our problem solving. Shared values and global community. So in our shared values, the basis for a more harmonious and interconnected global community is so important, because actually, yes, it is about Malaysia, but it is about what's happening globally. And a purpose-driven impact and emotional intelligence. All of these are things that contribute to our consciousness of how we operate and how we show up at work every day, and the consequences of us not doing this. So I want to talk about the challenges. So we understood the case for change. We know where we're at, but what are the challenges? The lack of integration and alignment. And I've got to ask the question, does your vision align with your sustainable goals? Do the people that work in your organization, in your SMEs, in your businesses understand what that means? You can see the passion. How is that integrated? How is it integrated in your organizations? I often talk about the iceberg of ignorance. And what happens is, in the iceberg of ignorance, the whole 100% of any organization has pain. It's suffering in some way or the other. And that's 100%. And as you go further up into your grass tops, which would be your executives, would be your C-suite, they only understand 4% of that pain. So how do you actually start melting the iceberg? And I know that sounds very, no pun intended with regards to melting the iceberg, because I know we're talking about environmental. But it's how do we do that, right? And the accelerator of this and the response to this is the inner development goals. Now you would see that on the right-hand side is a little taste of what the IDGs is. And I've been told that I've just got 5 minutes left. So I'm going to go to data collection and reporting. There is a maze of data, right? There's data everywhere in your organization. How do you find this data? How do you make it important and relevant to how you report on your ESG and SDGs? So the heartbeat of an organization is actually this information. And yet, it's a puzzle. It's missing the pieces, complicating your journey towards reliable measurement and communication. The next one is our mind shift changes, our cultural shifts, our change management. How are we transforming traditional corporate cultures into beacons of sustainability? How are we actually doing a hiring process, for example? Are we asking people the right questions in an interview? Is that person that you're bringing into your organization the cultural fit in how you see your sustainability going forward? And these are tough questions to ask, and it's How do we do this, right? Are we engaging the right stakeholders? It's a global theater right now, an absolute global theater. Stakeholders hold diverse expectations. The challenges rise in creating the symphony where we all come together and understand what each note is played by our employees. And the stakeholder and accountability, and the regulatory complexity. So this one is a tough one, right? Because as I heard and as people were talking about it, it's a labyrinth. And the landscape is so varying that it crosses jurisdictions, it crosses countries, it crosses organizations, and we lose sight because there's just so much going on. We lose sight of what it is that this compass demands of us. So these are the challenges, and the response to it is actually the inner development goals. And I am going to go a little bit further and say that the number one factor that's affecting our companies, our SMEs, our businesses, is the fact that the employee training and engagement is so low. That's the number one factor. Because if you go into any place and you ask somebody, do you understand the SDGs? Do you know the 17 goals? Do you know what the ESG goals or objectives are for your company? And no, not everybody can actually answer that. So how do you filter that into your company vision, your company strategy? Is it there? Is it missing? And I just want to say that the IDGs were actually developed in Stockholm, and it is with the help, and I'm so passionate about this because I just want to say that people from around the world have put this together, by scientists, by researchers, by MIT. There have been many, many people that have put this together, and the amount of intricate understanding, evaluation, research that went into it brought about the IDGs, and you will hear more about it as we go along. And basically, it's 5 dimensions. These 5 dimensions are being, thinking, relating, collaborating, and acting. It has 23 skills. These 23 skills are intertwined between these 5 dimensions, and it is an accelerator of the ESGs and the SDGs, as well as it is a human-centered call for action. It's fostering individual consciousness, empathy, ethical awareness, but it is a systemic change. I believe that I have to leave. My time's up. But I can't find the mic, so I'm trying to not walk. But I just want to say to you that I lead Malaysia in the inner development goals globally. I am the coordinator. I take that very, very seriously because we have a global community. We cannot do that without your support. And we need to bring these inner development goals to every single human being to understand intrinsically how are you motivated and how are you showing up every day on this planet. And I want to say terima kasih. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shireen. That was awesome. So, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it, the inner development goals and what it is. That answered the question, what? But how do we apply being, thinking, relating, collaborating, and acting? I'll give you a small example while they try to put up Maria's Zoom and slide, if you can get them on. Organizers, thank you very much. So, look at it in this way. I have a young son. We are sitting at our dinner table. I ask him to come and join us for dinner. He's playing with his phone. And he says, yeah, I'm coming. And so we start eating. And then I ask him to come and have dinner with us again. And he says, yeah, I'm coming. and he arrives finally at the table, takes some food, eats half of it, leaves it there, leaves the rest, and walks off. First, this is what is happening to ESG and SDG today. Outside, top-down push for employees to follow. The result is watered down. Compared to, we ignore him, we have our dinner, we leave the food on the table, and we walk off. Hours later, his stomach is growling. He comes into the kitchen, he starts looking for food, he gathers whatever he can, and he wipes the plate clean. He has been IDG'd. The drive came from inside him, that hunger, and that is what IDG does. So, let me introduce the next speaker, Maria Testagracia. Here she is. Isn't she beautiful? Thank you very much, Maria. Maria is a co-creator. She is a co-creator of IDG's practitioners. And she is going to tell you how to apply the IDGs. She will come on now, and she will come on in one slot after the next one. And that will complete the suite of what we have to say. But I also want to add that in the final panel session today, we are looking for the first 5 companies to express their interest in further finding out about IDGs by scanning a QR code and registering your name. So please look out for that. Ladies and gentlemen, we give you Maria Testagracia. Over to you, Maria. All yours. Thank you.
Selamat Putong, Malaysia. Good evening, everyone. I hope you can hear me loud and clear. Yes, BK?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. So today we are going to talk about the inner development goals to see what they are, why they are relevant for organizations in the public and private sector alike, and how you can bring them within the context of your sustainability compliant business. The inner development goals have been defined as the human counterpart to the sustainable development goals. Today, they represent a framework of the human capabilities and skills which are required to achieve the SDGs. On June 23rd of the last year, even the European Parliament has recommended that we start educating, inspiring, and empowering people to be a positive force for change in society, accelerating progress towards the SDGs. And initiatives such as the inner development goals are crucial to make this possible. But a bit of context first. In 2015, the SDGs are formed and adopted by all UN members. It's an historical moment. The international community, countries from all over the world, committed together to a single great vision for the whole humanity, shared, comprehensive, overarching, inclusive of the planet, the people, and the economy. It is immense. If you think about it, it's the first time we share the same vision with another 8 billion people. But the progress towards the SDGs is nowhere as fast as needed. Actually, the COVID pandemic and the exacerbation of wars all around the globe have stopped the progress altogether. We should have made it by 2030. And we are looking now at a delay of at least 40 years. Global inequalities are on the rise. On one end, ever-growing profits, and on the other, shocking scarcity. We have never talked about sustainability more than in the recent years, yet this has we are at a crossroad where it is evident that the way we are trying to change the world is not going to work. When we attempt change, there is a big mistake we make. We look at our system, people, planet, economy, as a mechanic system, not as what it is, an organic one, a living one. From a mechanic perspective, we tend to think that when things do not work, we can fix them, that by replacing the single broken parts, the whole machine will restart functioning well. For example, look at regulating equality or environmental impact. We have added new policies performing the missing function, the way we would add a brand new part to our car, expecting that that will move the entire system and make it work just fine. Many years later, we realized that this approach is not even nearly sufficient. On the other hand, we may attempt replacing the old machine altogether, break and destitute all its parts, build a new one. In the last decade, we had the best revolution that never happened. So brilliant, moving, encompassing, and unavoidably right. Yet today, we still see our youth protesting for the same exact reasons, and we still invest half of our public and private money in long-chain dependencies that cause wars, environmental destruction, and social injustice. We cannot apply mechanic principles to the way living systems change. So let's ask ourselves, what is the work that is needed today? What is our work? And do we have the capacity to contribute to this work? We need to start connecting our inner and outer world, mindset, and the environment it gives rise to. The first thing we become aware of when we look at the state of our world is our humanity, its fragility, its basic need, and how these are met. Surviving as a species in our ecosystem means we need warmth, nutrition, protection, and also expression. But the first type of resources, those that give us food and warmth and protection, are hidden and limited. Our history to date has been a race to acquire them, competing to extract and exploit, accumulate and defend. And great part of the structures we have built in our system, as well as in our mindsets, belong to this paradigm. Countries with borders, different currencies, organizational hierarchies at all levels. In the personal dimension, we also see these structures. Our collective and personal mindset is often focused on the need to be better than others, to hide our weaknesses, or a fear to disagree with those who have more resources than us. In a world where basic needs are commodified, these structures are required to maintain and negotiate transactions. But extraction has reached its limit. All the resources needed to provide our basic needs are already in the cycle. Today's job is all about distributing them, learn how to keep them in the loop, how to transform them, simplify their access. This is not possible if we apply the same mindset that was required to acquire, accumulate, and segregate them. The structures we have developed in our current system are a reflection of our ancestral human fears and needs. Turning them into structures that allow everyone's access to resources without further depletion is our responsibility. The old vision, the old system is disgregating, and us with it, with or without our conscious participation. Today's biggest resource is immaterial. It's knowledge, but a type of knowledge so complex that we can only have it if we work together as one system. The second thing we discover as we become aware is complexity. As system changers, our job is not just about creating the new, but to see through a fabric of vested interest in the current system, millions of short, medium, and long-term dependencies. We do not start from a clean slate, but from a very complex ecosystem, layered with subsystem processes, diverse stakeholders, all active in the existing processes, with specific actions, infrastructure, knowledge, specializations, and an incredible amount of resources flowing through the current system. We try to challenge the way of working and living of all these actors, while at the same time we try to renegotiate all those transactions in new sustainable patterns. The old system is undergoing a loss that affects the living of people within it and all the experiences they have matured. We ask people to do things that are new and uncomfortable, difficult, while risking losing everything they have accumulated through the old system. System change teaches us that we need to appreciate this complexity in all its aspects, or change will fail. This takes much better equipped minds and huge cooperative efforts. Besides, we are inside the system ourselves, with our human needs, our small lives and limitations, and our imagination and fears, which have been forged by what we already know. Every time we need to give birth to a new system, it's an evolutionary jump. The change in the collective is organically related to the change in the ecosystem, as well as the change in the single person. It is within this context of fragility and complexity and the need for radical collaboration that institutions are finally acknowledging that we need to start looking at the human factor which produced the problem in the first place. Get back to basics as humanity, to the qualities and skills that allowed us to get here as we are, what we call evolution. The IDG framework asks the basic question of what type of qualities and skills are needed to successfully work with complex societal issues. Evolution is telling us that we don't need a better world. We need to be better for our world. And in this crucial change, leadership is everyone. The house is burning. The people inside the house need to decide how they spend what can be the next, or maybe the last, 3 minutes. The IDG work started in Stockholm in 2019. A group of experts writes the Growth That Matters Manifesto, which states the urgent need to work systemically with psychological and cognitive growth in adults in order to meet the accelerating complexity of the world challenges. Surveys were distributed all around the world to ask the people who know which human qualities they have witnessed making the realization of the SDGs possible. Cognitive and neuroscientists, experts in adult learning, psychologists, HR and sustainability experts, but also activists, social entrepreneurs. The results are a number of skills, 23, which cannot be missed, but can be trained to communicate, imagine, pursue, and realize complex systemic impact. Researchers helped making sense of the findings and organized them in 5 dimensions. In March 2022, the IDG's Global Alliance was launched, gathering heads of state and governments, ministers and senior officials from academia, foundations and civil society. And this led to the June European Parliament resolution, which we have mentioned. The private corporate world has already embraced it, with learning circles already taking place as we speak, with the first extensive learnings shared by IKEA, Ericsson, which use the IDGs in their young talent training programs, but also Google, which runs an IDG lab. These learning circles are accessible to all partners of IDG. And today the community counts over 400 hubs worldwide and networks working extensively to bring this knowledge in practical ways in all domains, from academia to businesses, small, medium, and large, to the public sector. The movement is extremely recent, and Malaysia today is a pioneer in its application, thanks to the Malaysian Inner Development Goals Hub, who has gathered us here today. The IDGs are in line with the UN Leadership Skills for Systemic Change and gather today a global recognition. The Inner Development Goals are the human counterpart needed to accelerate our work towards the Sustainable Development Goals. By defining our goal more clearly, by making it seem more manageable and less remote, we help all people to see it, to draw hope from it, and to move irresistibly towards it. With these words of John Kennedy, I would like to remind all of you that change starts within, and we will see how this is possible in our everyday business. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria. That was awesome. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, on the next part, we'd like to bring you Patrick McNamara all the way from Geneva. Patrick as well is a co-creator practitioner of the IDGs, and Patrick has got experience dealing with the United Nations on the IDGs. So let's give it up for Patrick McNamara. Thank you.
Great, thank you, VK. And Daniel, can you put my slides up? While we're doing that, I'll just begin by saying that when I saw the Inner Development Goals was so excited because thank you, Maria, for the excellent introduction and of the IDGs and the complex problems we're facing around the globe. And what I found is that the Inner Development Goals are a way for organizations, for governments, for other community organizations to translate those complex problems into 5 dimensions that they can work on to affect change. So it really facilitates going from complex to collective action that's aligned to what's needed and engaging all stakeholders. As Maria said in the next slide, the Inner Development Goals were created with this question of what skills and qualities what skills and qualities are essential to accelerate the Inner Development Goals achievement. And that's something that you might ask yourself for your organizations around SDGs. But what came out of the survey are these 5 dimensions, and shown on the next slide. The circle is I'm sorry. So these are the Sustainable Development Goals. Maybe we can go back to the slide right before. And these Sustainable Development Goals can be mapped to the ESG on the next slide, the environmental, social, and governance aspects of the Sustainable Development Goals. So I know that many countries, in Malaysia as well, have created the ESG frameworks for reporting and for engagement of companies and organizations around the Sustainable Development Goals. And your ESG framework came out in May. So the IDGs can help you in your ESG commitments. And so on the next slide, actually in 2 slides, this is the IDG framework, the 5 elements. The first one, the circle, is the being element, shown on the next slide. And being is relating to oneself. But when we put the IDGs into action, they are all interrelated. so we generally start with the relating goal, looking at the relationships that we have with each other and our connection to the larger problems that we're facing. And then we step back, we use the thinking goal for systems thinking and taking a perspective of the different stakeholders and the different parts of the challenge. And then once we do that, we have a sense of the whole system, what's needed. We maybe take another step back and look at our individual motivations and our collective organizational motivations to engage in the SDGs, to engage in the ESG, to see, how does that motivation and organization align to our strategy, and what does it mean for us individually? It's through that deeper motivation that's deeper motivation is really what fuels engagement in this complex change. So it's fueled by individuals and they're wanting to play a part in the change, and we look at the whole systems through the thinking goal, and then we go to the collaborating goal. So with all that motivation, with all the understanding of the whole system and the whole problem, we go to the collaborating goal, and we build trust with each other, we build communication across silos, and from that, we start to generate solutions that each piece of the puzzle could not create on their own. Then, once we have those solutions, we use the act-in goal to take a test and learn approach, a step-by-step approach that's very creative, using optimism and perseverance to get through the resistance, but to allow the solution to unfold step by step as we're creating it. Because with complex change, with complex problems, the solutions are not evident when you begin. You have to discover them as you're moving. And I'll give some examples in a moment of ways that organizations have done that. Actually, my first example on the next slide is the country of Costa Rica. Costa Rica has signed up at the country level to support the Inner Development Goals and to put them into place within the country. They have a long relationship with the United Nations, with the UN University there, and they're starting, as I understand it, with the Ministry of Education and using education system as a way to introduce elements of the Inner Development Goals. So it's a great start. It's really investing in the next generation. And they have several other projects that they're working on as well, but that's the one that is in the forefront. At the United Nations, there are two initiatives. The SDG Leadership Labs have engaged 27 UN country teams, and in a program that spans 7 months to engage across the different thematic areas of the Sustainable Development Goals and to create pilots, to create new ways of working together and new solutions together across stakeholder groups. And these create mindset shifts in the way people are moving. They increase the relationships and the way people are working together, and they allow these pilots to take action, as I mentioned earlier. This is another program within the United Nations, UNITAR, the United Nations Institute for Training and Research, and they're including the Inner Development Goals in their programming. IKEA is another example, a business that's using the Inner Development Goals that Maria mentioned. They have the learning circles that Maria talked about, and they also have initiatives within their strategy. These are the 3 areas of the ISG. I would say they're of the ESG, they're focusing more on the social, looking at healthy and sustainable living, because that supports their customers and supports their product. They're crafting the products to support healthy and sustainable living. So it's a bigger picture of what they're achieving. Also, fair and equal treatment of employees, and that goes on into treatment of customers as well. So they're using the IDGs to inform their work on their ESG framework. This is a German bank in the south of Germany. They're focusing more on governance. They've taken 40 people from across the organization, from the board all the way to line managers, and they've used the structure of the Sustainable Development Goals to look at how they're investing and their investments, and also to engage employees in the learning circles that Maria mentioned. So what they're finding is increased collaboration, increased communication across the different parts of their organization and increased business with those investors interested in social impact investing. This next project is one that's focused more on environment. Also in Germany, it's a healing forest where stakeholders in a geographic area around a forest that include healthcare organizations, pharmaceuticals, community government, and healing practitioners come together to create healing tourism to promote more collaboration and economic development in the region. And also the program also helps promote the inner development goals themselves. So their focus on environmental impact on a deeper level in this geographical area. So those three examples, the IKEA, the bank, and the healing forest, are three ways that organizations have put the IDGs into action in order to affect complex change. And I would say also the United Nations program also is really tackling those those integrated sustainable development goals to create new solutions that go across thematic areas. The next slide are the many companies that Maria spoke about. And then, so in closing, I'd like you to consider, how can the inner development goals advance your ESG commitments? What ideas from those short examples that I gave might you consider to create learning circles in your organizations, to look at how to engage across the different areas, or how to engage with multiple stakeholders in order to create new solutions, to discover new solutions, and then to take small steps toward achieving them. So thank you very much, and I look forward to future discussion.
Thank you very much, Patrick. That was very, very insightful. Ladies and gentlemen, the inner development goals, we are very lucky. We are very lucky in this room. We are very lucky in Malaysia. Because when the SDGs first came out in 2015, shortly followed by the ESG, we were late adopters. But guess what? The IDGs are brand new. They are out. They are hot off the oven. And it has come to our shores. And this is one of the first times we will not be following after people have done it in their flavor and try to put it onto us. We will curate it to our own business culture and move it forward using our own systems and methods. With that, I'd like to bring you back to Maria, because Maria now is going to give you an insight into applied IDG. Actually, what happens in companies when they do it, how do we measure the progress, etc. So back to you, Maria. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Patrick, for a formidable introduction to this subject. So we live very close together. So our prime purpose in life is to help others. I would like to open with these words from His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So right now, our businesses face accelerating challenges, and the requirements to innovate have never been more pressing. Our clients, employees, the public ask us to deliver true value, true purpose, and take a part in addressing and resolving the global crisis, well beyond the corporate social responsibility, and definitely not as lightly as greenwashing. Regulations are tighter around us, with requirements, protocols, and fines that make the corridor of change an obligation. At the same time, we have complex business models whose architecture requires critical modifications, a completely new design that embraces financial, operational, strategic, tactical, and technical changes. We need to realize that these levers, as opposed as they may seem, are interdependent, and addressing them is our highest priority if we want to remain competitive. In this exercise, we have two choices to address this. multiply the efforts in parallel streams, which requires immense resources and continuous control, or optimizing the existing dependencies and create synergies towards achieving a triple bottom line. And this is what we call aligning profit, purpose, and people. We go very much in depth in this process with the Malaysian IDG Hub and with Habitat Enviro. But today we want to have a look at what we know from organizations which have already aligned their cultural transformation, engaging deeply their employees to reach, of course, their prosperity and profit. So let's look at the information we have from the pioneers in the research, Gartner, IBM Smarter Workforce, Gallup. If you look at the numbers very quickly, you will see that cultural transformation and employee engagement at the level of inner change really returns back on our assets, on our sales, on our profitability, much faster than any other type of strategy, because we engage creativity and commitment and the will to follow an ethical compass much deeper than we could in any other way. And then when we look at the ESG environment, what do we know from the leaders who have been successful in engaging with ESGs and achieving the requirements of the framework, of the reporting framework? Let's look at this research from McKinsey. They asked leaders who were successful in ESG what is that they did differently. And again, cultural transformation, harvesting the intelligence of employees and engaging them at all levels is really what moved them crucially forward. So what is this cultural change and what does engagement look like? How can we accelerate powerful the IDG in the way IDGs work in the ESG context? The entire architecture of ESG and SDG might seem very complex, even bureaucratic at first sight, but we can tackle the context much more easily when we connect our product, our service, and our entire systems underlying the life cycle of our services to the IDGs. So I will ask you to do something with me today. Please grab pen and paper or your device notes, because in the next section, I'm going to stimulate some reflections, give you time to write down a few words, a few things that come quickly to mind, and maybe even some things that you can do straight away when you get back to the office. So for all of you here today, the product or service you deliver is the reason why you exist. So no matter if you are a corporate or even a public sector provider. So let's start from this, your product, your service, and let's find out together how you can look at the ESG and SDG and how IDG can help you spearheading and reasoning about what is needed today. In each slide, you're going to see some examples of questions to get you working, to kickstart, and also an example of some of the SDGs that this work would impact, and some of the material impacts within the ESG framework that these kind of questions can lead you to accomplish. And then on the left, you see the inner development goals qualities. So I ask you every time you answer the questions in the middle of the slide to reflect on those skills and use them as your inspiration drive to answer the questions. So first of all, let's look at being. So being asks us to check our intention. Often our business model is driving resources depletion and consumption. It's based on the mindset of take, accumulate, and defend. We justify this as normal, but it means that we cannot really be of positive contribution. So think about your product or your service. All the product elements, from the packaging to the way the consumer or the client is using it, what kind of behavior it leads, and answer this question. Does your product or service stimulate responsible consumption? Does it incentivize the customer to consume or produce more responsibly? How does it do so? If it doesn't, think about the distribution chain, the way you market it, the way it's made, what people do with it. Is there a tangible way that you can do this, that you can incentivize less consumption through your product? We give you a few seconds to reflect upon this. And please take notes, please. Reflect on the design, on the quality, on the safety. How accessible is your product? How you sell it? What do your clients do with it? Do they do something sustainable with it or something that is going to hurt the environment or themselves?
And while the people are doing this, Maria, just a reminder, we are really out of time. We need to speed up a little bit, please. Thank you.
And now we're going to move to the next. Thinking is about developing rich and encompassing possibilities of change. We rush to design solutions before we even have a complete picture of the problem. Or we decide altogether to ignore parts of it and then spend later on 80% of our energies dealing with the things we decided to ignore. So think about your business model resilience in the coming 10 to 20 years. What will the situation of the geographical areas it is sourced from or distributed to be like? Will the resources required to produce it be still available? Will regulations limit its current state? How will this affect your client, your employees, your stakeholders? And think of one way, thinking with complexity, taking perspective, using a bit of critical thinking, that you could make your product or service future-proof, more resilient for your business and for its stakeholders. Again, take a few seconds to reflect on this. Down to your supply chain management, to the systemic risk it faces today. It's complex. Are you already doing something in this realm? When are you going? Could you use more learnings? Do you need somebody to make sense of this? And now we will move to relation, which is about caring for the problem of someone very far from us, the same way we would care for our own, but also being able to see that our problem today can be resolved together with others. So think again of your product and service. How does it affect the lives of the communities across its entire supply chain? Is it a good connection? Do your operations have a positive influence from your business to the local economies it impacts? Are you doing enough of this? Are you even watching what it does? Do you know what it does? And if not, what is needed? Does it create good jobs, good livelihoods, good connection amongst the people in the community? Now let's look at collaboration. So when we think about collaboration, we always think about the ones who are like us. But actually, in the current crisis, it's our competitors we need to understand the best and cooperate with the most. So think of a time your organization met its competitors or was even inspired by them in a pre-competitive way. What happened exactly? How did it improve your business? Is this mindset a frame of mind that maybe can help you innovating faster rather than sticking to your guns and segregate your interest? Think about a competitor and what you could learn from them. Could you even contact them to share a common issue and to see how to overcome it together? Yes, BK. And I will leave you with a few reflections on actions. So inviting you to really incentivize each and every one in your organization by incorporating ESG outputs in your performance metrics of each and every one of your employees. So this is all from me, BK, and I hope that has been a useful exercise, and I leave the floor back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maria. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I know it's late. We're going to take just a little bit of your time because this is the icing on the cake. Shireen, can we have our slides, please? And I'll try to be really quick. So what we're going to do is we're going to open the floor to Q&A, but as you're asking me the questions, we will put up our slides here. The slides will be shared with you as well. And you could do it in your own time. But what we're trying to do here is, if you scan the QR code, which is coming up in a minute, you will have to put in your interest, and then we will look at what your company is doing and come and make an appointment and see you and speak specifically about IDGs to your company. And then you can consider, of course, you need to get board level or whatever management level approvals, but whatever we are going to offer to you will be 100% HRDF claimable. So that's the QR code, and these are the programs. Sorry, if you could go one slide back, please. Yeah, program 1, program 2, and then next, please. And these 2 programs. So, and that's the QR code which you can scan to put in express your interest if you're interested in considering the IDGs for your corporation. So, ladies and gentlemen, here we are, almost at the end of this session. But I want you this opportunity to ask any questions that you may have. Anyone at all? Maria and Patrick are also on standby on the other side if you need them to answer some questions. Any questions, please?
Yeah. Good evening, gentlemen. See, we started off, the UN started off with MDG, and then there's the SDG, and then you have ESG. Now you have IDG.
Yes.
Okay? So how do you make it so simple, as keep it simple and short to the Malaysian public, both for the what they call the companies or the local authorities or any actors, the flow structure, okay, of how this IDG is going to integrate holistically to work with these SDGs and ESGs, so everyone can understand, okay, the functionality of it. Thank you.
Thank you for that great question. Appreciate it. So, yes, you are right. The United Nations did start with the Millennium Development Goals, then they went to Sustainable Development Goals, and then they went to Environment, Social, and Governance, and now you have IDGs. But IDGs is not another framework. It is meant to overlay onto your SDG and your ESG and accelerate them. How? What is it that makes the quality of ESG in a company better. The people who run the initiative and meticulously report, that improves quality. And where the interface has not reached is in re-engineering the people who do it. A facility manager who is asked to say, do energy efficiency and report to us because we want to put it into the ESG report. Even though he can achieve 20% by doing a little bit more work, he will only achieve 10% because he hasn't got ownership over the problem. Neither does he have a purpose to do it. He's not connected to it. I do it, I don't do it, I get the same salary. The IDGs are meant to come in and change that from within. That I need to do this, I need to take ownership, I need to do it for future generations of not only my generations, but the entire humanity's generations and our earth. That is the level of change that we are hoping to execute. And it has been proven that it is indeed capable of doing that. The 5 steps and the 23 goals. I hope that answers your question. It is not another framework. It is something to accelerate the existing framework. Any other questions? Anyone else?
Is it going to be taught in universities and colleges to make the students understand? Okay, because there is some universities having this courses.
Well, yeah, for now, there are universities that are participating in the proliferation of it. Whether it's going to be accepted as a syllabus or not is left for us to be seen. For that matter, I'm not sure many universities actually teach SDGs or ESG as a subject matter. It's more on the corporate realm. Perhaps some MBAs do. However, the United Nations is seriously looking at it, and it's too close to something they own. In fact, the IDGs were created with a blessing that we need to do some research as to why your framework is not moving, why ESG is slow to uptake. And when the IDGs came into being, the first global organization to say, come and do it with us and we want to see whether it's working or not, was the United Nations. And so Patrick is involved in doing that in Geneva. So I am unable to answer what the future holds as far as universities and schools and IDG is concerned. But what we need to do with the IDGs is use it as a catalyst to accelerate ESG so that we do not miss our 2030 1.5 degree avoidance of global average temperature increase by too much. We need to increase the velocity of the things we are doing by empowering people to take ownership and to producing high quality efforts and initiatives in doing their ESG initiatives. That's the purpose, basically. Anyone else? Or any other questions? Anything from you?
I just want to respond to you with regards to, getting universities involved, etc. I think that there is such a huge opportunity, a massive opportunity for everybody. Whether you're in a university, whether you're in an organization, doesn't matter where you are, it is an opportunity. It's how we take this opportunity and what we do with this opportunity. It's here, it's arrived. Malaysia is really leading, as BK mentioned, is really leading the race to this. And we are one of the first Asian countries to actually accelerate this. So it's actually in your hands. As much as it is in our hands, it's in your hands as well. So if you see that potential, if you are from an institution, if you want to be part of this, grab onto it immediately and now, because it actually has to happen right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with that, if there are no further questions, I'd like to close the session. But I would like to give all of you a big hand for staying back and listening to us. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Thank you, Sharif.